Thank you, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with the Watershed Action Committee, and I'm delighted that I have a chance to talk to you a little bit about the New Jersey School of Conservation. But before I start, I just wanted to say that in one of my previous lives, I was in the watershed program at the DEP when they first kind of started that program, and so some of the things that I was listening to you talk about, very familiar with, and I applaud your efforts. A watershed association is hard work, and you do great things, and so keep up the good work and don't lose heart. It all comes back in the end, and it makes a difference, the work that you're doing. So the School of Conservation, we've been around a long time, 77 years, but I want to go back in time a little bit because the area that we operate in has been around for way longer than that. We are located in Stoke State Forest.
I know where that.
And it was established in 1907 by Governor Stokes. And we are now kind of in the middle of 16,000 acres, which is pretty incredible. And you can see, I have a little pointer, but you can see the little red dot there in Sussex County. That's kind of where we are. And I've always liked this picture, this aerial view of the school. That's our property and our Lake Wapelani, and the bridge that separates our two campuses, which I'll tell you about in just a minute. We have 240 acres. And I'm responsible for 57 buildings. And in addition to the acreage that we have, we also have about 3.5 acres of trail systems that we do our education programs on. So it's a lot of area that we have to manage, in addition to a solar field and a wastewater treatment plant and a bunch of other maintenance requirements. But going back in time, the area that we occupy was once part of the Ramapo Lenape people. They were there for 11,000 years before the colonists came in the 1600s and essentially farmed and mined the area where we are. The campus that we have was once owned by the Skellinger family, and there are still members of that family living in Sussex County today. In the early 20s, they sold the property to Governor Stokes as part of the effort to build the new state forest, which was Stoke State Forest. We also are, I'm very proud to say, a campus that was developed and built by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the Roosevelt administration as part of the jobs creation program. So our kind of roots go way back into the issues of conservation. The property that we have, most of our buildings are still intact, obviously modified dramatically, but many of them are 90 years old. The campus was designed to be a site for the men from the Corps on one side of the lake, and then on the other side of the lake is the eastern side of the lake was designed to be a summer camp for children from urban areas. And so I'll tell you a little bit more about that. In 1949, well, actually in the late 30s, when the program ended, the site was largely abandoned, and a group of educators led by Dr. L.B. Sharp approached the state of New Jersey and said, you need an outdoor center, you need an outdoor education center to train teachers who can bring concepts of conservation and sustainability and management, conservation management, natural resource management, and agriculture into the classroom. And so they established the School of Conservation in 1949. And in those early years, those first 20 years of its existence, that's exactly what it did. It was 6 state colleges And I was just talking to the young lady here and trying to remember the names of all of the schools, but they were what they call the normal schools. And these are the schools that were training teachers. And they entered into agreement with the Department of Higher Ed to send their students to the school for 1 week experience to learn in the field about conservation and natural resource management. That continued until the early 60s. And that was the time when the schools started to kind of shift their focus from education to liberal arts. And so a lot of the agreements started to fall apart. And that was right around the same time that my dad, who was the 5th director of the School of Conservation, came on board. And it was also right around the same time that environmental education was born. It was actually first conceived at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor by a group of graduate students who came up with the term. And the first time it appears in the literature, it's I believe 1962 in the Journal of Environmental Ed, when they referenced the importance of integrating concepts of the environment into all curriculum areas. And so my dad, along with his program director, Jackie Russell, and in consultation with the folks in Ann Arbor, became one of the first schools, outdoor schools, to integrate the concepts of environmental ed into their existing programs. And they opened it up to elementary school students to come. And so from the 60s up until now, we continue to educate young people in all areas of science and history and social studies and the arts and also climate change. Right around the same time as COVID hit, Montclair University, that had been the managers of the school for all those years from 49 through 2019, decided that they could no longer manage the school. So they turned it back to the state of New Jersey. Because it is in a state park, it kind of is under the auspices of the Division of Parks. And Division of Parks decided to put out an RFP. We, as a friends group that I was the president of, felt very strongly that the school needed to reopen. And so I worked with a group of in the environmental community. Some of you know Julia Summers pretty well, probably. She was one of the groups that really helped us, along with the League of Conservation Voters. And I don't want to miss anyone, but a number of the key environmental groups, as well as the academic institutions across the state, and many of the teachers, the science coordinators and school coordinators, students who had been coming. We entered into a campaign to save the school. And we got the ear of several legislators, Senator Smith, Senator McKeon, who became our champions. And we convinced them to sponsor legislation to turn management of the school over to the Friends. And that took place in October of 2022. Later that month, I believe it was actually October 22nd of 2022. The governor signed legislation establishing the Friends as the managers of school conservation. And a year later, we signed a lease with the state of New Jersey, with the Department of Environmental Protection and Division of Parks to run and operate the school. So in other words, taking care of the facility as well as the operating programs at the school. So we've been doing that since May of 2023. And as it was mentioned, our mission is to continue the education of young people so that they become responsible stewards of the earth, learn about climate change, and kind of understand their place in the world and their role in being good managers of our environment. We have a number of programs that we operate at the school. Can you see that? I just want to make sure that nothing is being missed because my screen looks a little different. We have about 4 different kind of categories of programs that we have at the school. One is school groups, and then we do teacher professional development, research, and we offer public programs. And our school groups come from all over the state of New Jersey. I was just talking with someone about, we have a group coming up tomorrow from Summers Point all the way down to South Jersey. They've been coming to us for about 40 years. And they always come this time of year. And we've been fortunate that the last 2 winters, we've actually had winter. And so we're going to be taking them ice fishing, and they're going to be doing snowshoeing and kind of activities that they might not otherwise have been able to do in Summers Point, way down South Jersey. So they're very excited, and we're super excited about them coming back. Some of the teachers and coordinators who have been with the school, they've been there for about 20 years. In fact, one of them is retiring at the end of this year. So they're longtime friends of the school and also champions for us. The other thing that we do is teacher professional development, which I'll get into a little bit in a minute. We have a research consortium, and we also, in order to keep school conservation in the public's eye during the period of time that we were negotiating with the state, we started public programs that we've continued to offer. And so we'll talk about all of that. This is our education team. We have 3 full-time people, and we have a business model of what we refer to as master educators. These are largely teachers who have retired from education programs, from schools, from outdoor centers, who have either brought their students to the school conservation, or were students themselves, took courses and love the school so much that they come and they work with us on an as need basis. And we've trained them in all of the classes that we teach. We have quite a number of course offerings. All of our classes are correlated with core curriculum standards. We have about, I think, 3, maybe 4 now, climate change specific classes that are also correlated with the new climate change standards. So when a student or when a school comes to school conservation, we really are extensions of classroom. It's not just fun and games, even though I mentioned 2 what I think are really fun things. Ice fishing and snowshoeing. We're very fortunate this past year that in 2025 that we increased the number of people who came to the school significantly from last year, from the year before that. So we had 3,900 people from 15 counties coming from the state, all across the state. We've increased the number of teachers who did our teacher professional development with us. We've expanded our partnership, our both academic and kind of organizational partners. And last year we hosted 3 weeks of summer camp. So we're pretty excited about the growth that we're seeing, and there continues to be demand. As I said, we have our first group coming tomorrow, and I'm going to say that it's going to continue pretty heavily right on through September. Our bookings are pretty solid, which is great. We're very excited about the fact that we have the programs we can offer, and the space available for schools from all over the state to attend our program. This is sort of just a breakdown. In 2023, you see 112 teachers. In 24, 205, and this year we had 230 teachers and 11 workshops. So our workshops are increasing. We are very fortunate to have a grant from the Department of Education through Ramapo State College to offer teacher professional development. So this has done 2 things. It's brought new teachers to the school conservation to learn about climate change and how to bring it into their classroom in interactive ways. And it's also, the grant has provided funding for the schools to bring their students to the schools. So we have increased our clients, significantly because of the grant that we received. And we have been notified that we will have a grant for the 3rd year. So we're very excited about that. We've also expanded our reach in terms of community partners, and this is again an area that had not really been fully explored. We now offer our facility to organizations to have their retreats there, to have workshops, conferences, to participate in our programming if they choose, or to just use our facility for their own programming. And you can see we have, you know, the Youth Corps, Outdoors on Purpose, the New Jersey Watershed Ambassadors, and a host of other organizations that rent our facility and use our staff for programming. Just give you some idea of kind of the scenes that I see throughout the year. Music camp and teachers learning and the kids enjoying themselves and getting a real hands-on immersive experience. This is really the root of what we do is bringing children into the field and having them really feel a part of the world that's around them instead of separate from it.
What are they doing with the product?
That is, I believe that is the web of life that they're doing, and which shows connections to one another. This is just a listing of last year's programming. We are in the process of posting all of our public programs for this year, and it's going to continue to grow. But we have everything from hikes to painting to the Zen type program, archery, and a book club. So, and we're offering that again this year. So if you are interested in any public programs and want to come up for the day, you can go to our website and see the listings that are available right now. And as I said, more will be added. I wanted to show you once again the breakdown. I'm very proud of the work that our staff has done to kind of expand the reach and bring more people to the School of Conservation. And this shows you the growth that we've had over the last 3 years. And I expect that we'll continue to grow this coming year as well. I mentioned that one of the other programs we offer is research. We signed an agreement about 1.5 years ago with Rutgers University to become the northern kind of research center for Rutgers. And we also established what I refer to as a research consortium. We have 8 universities from across the state who have signed a charter to become part of this. And what this really allows them to do is to conduct research on our campus, to bring their students, to provide interns to us and give young people in college the opportunity to work in a natural area and learn about conservation through a hands-on experience. So we're very excited about this consortium that has developed, and we continue to brainstorm kind of academic partnerships and research efforts that we can collaborate on.
Question?
Yes.
On that slide, it says vernal pool phenology. What is phenology?
It's basically, I wish I could have give you the actual definition. That's sort of not my specialty, but it basically they're looking at the health and function of the vernal pools that come and go during the different seasons, and tracking the kind of animals that are there and its health basically is what it is. And we provide that information to a database that is actually, it's a national database that we're part of. So we have this, we're monitoring this one pool as part of a larger effort throughout the country. So it's pretty exciting. And we just started it, just kind of established the relationship. It's just samples of some of the research that has been going on at the school. And these are some of the schools, the universities and colleges that have signed the charter and are participating. The hardest part of managing the School of Conservation is not our programs. It's not developing the research consortium. it's really taking care of our facility. Our facility is 90 years old, even though the school itself is 77 years old. This means our buildings are in constant need of care. We inherited buildings and facilities that had been long neglected and underfunded. And so you can well imagine that the challenges that we have of trying to maintain 57 buildings is costly. I have 3 full-time facilities crew people. And will say this last 2 weeks have been really rough on us. In addition to having to plow snow so that we can get in and out of our campus. We've had frozen pipes, leaky pipes, transformers exploding, our backup generator going out of commission. It's been tough, but they have approached each one with a smile. And each time we have these challenges, we look at as opportunities to improve the campus. And also to make the argument that, this facility is worthwhile. And please help us maintain it because the demand is enormous in terms of the school groups and the educators and students in college who want to be part of the school and take our programming. This gives you an idea of some of the projects we have. There's interior projects, kind of restoring interior where there had been leaks and floors that were kind of caving in, and just a host of challenges. But as I said, each one we look at it as an opportunity to improve it. I'm really very proud of this effort that is going to be an ongoing one. One of the things that you can probably not hard to imagine is that a 1930s facility is probably not easily accessible for differently abled people. And so one of the things we're doing is slowly doing assessments of our properties and trying to make our property more accessible. And so the first thing that we are working on is not our trail system, but our pathway system that gets our students to the outdoor classrooms. We received a stipend from Nature Outdoor Accessible last year, and we purchased a type of gravel that we're putting down on all our pathways. But what's cool about it is it compacts very, very solidly, but it's also porous. So we're not creating a problem with becoming an impervious surface in the middle of the forest. So again, the weather changed on us, so we had to stop some of the work that we were doing, and we'll pick it up again in the spring. And ultimately, we'll have the loop around the lake completely covered with this material, so that wheelchairs and people that may be using canes or other means to move around will have an easier time getting around our campus. And when things are perfect, this is kind of what we look like. Any questions about what I talked about? Yes.
So it's my understanding that you were needing but your budget was being cut recently, like a lot, right? So did you get refunded fully?
So no, we didn't get fully funded. We are required by our legislation to submit a budget request every January 15th. And so a year ago, we put in a request for 3.5 million. At the end of the day, we received 1.6. In order to operate and do all that we need to do, both programmatically and taking care of our facilities, it requires about $6,400 a day to function. This takes care of salaries, insurance, our wastewater treatment plant, our solar field, general maintenance, and then just basic repairs, and our food service program.
So you're down like 2 million.
Yes, we are. So yeah, fortunately this year we did bring in just under 500,000 in revenue from donations, grants, and fees from our programs. But, you know, it's not enough to fully operate, so we do require funding from the state. We are looking for other sources of funding. I'm working with the grant makers and nonprofit world and knocking on doors like every other nonprofit is today. Yeah,
And solar field, yeah, solar.
we do.
And
Yes, it provides capacity for some of our buildings, it's not completely, we have sort of a mixed bag in terms of energy on our campus. So we have solar field, we have electric supplied by JCP&L, and we have propane in some of our older buildings that we are slowly trying to transfer over to electric.
solar field, how did that get funded?
That was funded through a grant that happened before my time.
Okay.
The previous director, Dr. Bill Thomas, submitted a grant, and I believe it was to BPU, but I might be wrong on that. And so the energy, we do get credits for it over the course of the year, so it does help us a little bit.
You know the history of the CCC and like what that land was before it was Stoke State Forest? Like, was it farmland that needed to be replanted with trees? Is that what they were doing?
So, as part of the Civilian Conservation Corps, the job program, we were one of several camps in the state of New Jersey. And the reason that our site was appealing, I believe, to the Corps at the time is that the land had once been a farm. And so it was largely cleared. It was owned by the Skellinger family. And so when federal government came in, they had to negotiate with the state, and they were offered that site to build their buildings. And so, I mean, you go around the country, and this is true everywhere. You know, they lease the property or entered into some kind of an arrangement with the state or property owners to use that site. And so on our site, like I said, they had two camps, and they actually built our lake. And we have a meeting area called Piney Point. They were responsible for building that, and that has been sort of our place of gathering, where we do orientation and we do campfires, and it's a very special place. But they planted the trees there, and then they did work out in Sussex County, mostly conservation work, some agricultural work. For, I think they were there from 34 through 38, something like that, 32, 38, something like that. And this is the kind of work they did throughout the state. It was largely conservation oriented work.
And I was also just curious about I think you were talking about the transition from having teachers come and learn, but then colleges started getting like liberal arts, I guess, more. And so maybe that kind of got phased out, and then you brought students, younger students in. Is that kind of like how the
I think that
transition?
was a national trend, honestly. It wasn't just in New Jersey. And it was actually kind of serendipitous in a way, because although the colleges were kind of moving away from teacher education and pre-service training in conservation, the world had woken up because of all of the environmental disasters that were happening nationally and internationally. And so there were those in the academic community that felt that we needed to look at how we were teaching students. You know, were we talking enough about water pollution, air pollution? Is there a way to integrate these concepts into our existing curriculum? And then the answer, of course, was yes, because, you know, seriously, when you look at the what we learn, it really is all related to the world around us. And so the way we learn best is by being immersed into a program, into a project. And so the idea of environmental education was born from those ideas. And it's also something that kind of came to fruition through the nature study program and movement, and also the outdoor education, which was kind of more recreation oriented. And there was sort of this kind of explosion between the two fields. One that was kind of very traditional, study of biology and wildlife, forestry, through the nature study movement. And then one that was more recreation. And it kind of merged into this program now, this field of environmental education.
Are there other facilities like this in New Jersey?
So, not quite like ours, but yes, there's environmental centers all over the state, all over the country, really. But we are the oldest year-round residential center in the country.
So the reason why I'm asking,
I'm sorry?
the reason why I'm asking is it kind of bothers me. I look at your numbers and they're very impressive, but it's a big state.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of kids. And I kind of feel that most of the children growing up in New Jersey do not experience something like this.
And that may be true, and we're trying to change
So
that.
just quantifiably, I'm guessing there's more than like 1,000 kids a year growing up in New Jersey. 2,000, I mean, there's hundreds of schools.
Yes.
So, and I don't have an easy answer, but it does bother me a lot that perhaps 90% of the children growing up in New Jersey get a very superficial exposure to the outdoors.
I would agree with you. I think it's, you know, it's something that it should change. I think that there's a lot of learning that happens in a natural space. There's a lot of literature out there that supports that statement of mine. I think that, you know, I think where we are, in terms of nature education or outdoor education is that, because field trips are very expensive, and particularly our environmental justice communities have a tremendous challenge in getting the schools out. Some of the teacher training workshops that we're doing and that other places are doing around the state through this grant, BOE, will help teachers think about ways to take their classes somewhere local or even on the school grounds to learn a little bit about nature and how that gets integrated into their programs. So I think that there's value in knowing your community, your own community. And there's also value in visiting a place that isn't your community so that you can make the comparisons. And one of the things that my staff does before a school comes to us is we understand where the kids are coming from, their demographics, what their surroundings might be, so that we can talk, when they take water ecology, for example, and they're stomping around in the streams, we can make reference to a waterway that's in their community and help them draw comparisons. You know, if you see the macroinvertebrates here, are you going to find them in the Hudson River? You know, are you going to find them in the Whippany? And if so, what is it going to look like? Is it going to look like this? And why would that be? So, you know, helping them to understand both the similarities and differences of waterways, one example.
Okay, I mean, I'm not happy, but
Yeah.
it's not your cause, but it's kind of scary.
It's something that we feel very strongly about at the School of Conservation, that we need to advocate for, and that's why we are so passionate about keeping the school open and trying to find ways to break down barriers for students to come to the school, and if not to our school, to other centers around the state.
I would say it's not totally dismal in the sense that I have lived in New Jersey for about 35 years. You know, there are, in each community has, you know, various ways that the kids get educated to be. There was two communities, and both communities had opportunity for children to experience the environment.
I guess
I think if I can just add to Kerry's point about, and my experience was to just be an involved parent in the school system, right? Because I noticed that there wasn't a lot of that going on. And so I helped to get a garden installed at the school. And we just worked really hard and it depended on having a science teacher that was also passionate to develop programs starting in kindergarten with the kids, to get them into the garden, starting like planting seeds and then actually planting them in the garden and then going out and tending to the garden. And that was our way of like, get them the heck out of the school. But it was right on the property. And it took many, many years to get that garden put in. But so I think there are parents like me that feel strongly about it, and sometimes that's what it takes. And we worked with our green team and the township, and we had volunteers, and but it is a sad state that they don't get outside more. But I love the concept of just teaching them about what they can do right in their own backyard,
Yes.
right? So maybe it isn't expensive, and then you don't get them coming to you necessarily. That's an important part.
Yeah, another good Woodview River Watershed Action Committee did was the rain garden into Nut Lakes. And our environmental club at the high school is now doing that wonderful maintenance of the garden. So, yeah, the environmental club, I was doing my part. We split up, our rain garden maintenance gets split up, is basically done by our environmental commission. The high school, the high school's environmental. And so I was doing my part a couple of days ago and learned from the leader of the garden, is Brian Marshall, that the kids were so thrilled to take care of it. They learned a lot, they learned about plants, they learned about, so it was really, it's been a very important part of our community.
I think that there's all kinds of examples of outdoor classrooms. It's just really finding that teacher who will be the one that sort of leads the argument to get the kids out. And in my own community, we have pollinators protectors kind of organization, and this is a group of women primarily retired who worked with the Warren County Environmental Committee and developed native gardens in different parts of the county, and worked with the students who were getting the environmental ed experience in 6th grade, and they're building gardens throughout the county. So there's all ways to reach people, but I think the point of the school conservation is, and the purpose of the school conservation is really that we want to bring children out of the classroom, away from the books and the chalkboards, and really give them that kind of immersive experiential learning that links to the books that they need to read, shows them in practical terms what it is they're reading about, or the calculations that they're learning in math in real time when you're outside. So I think that the school helps to provide that void, if you will, and inspires the teachers who come to our programming and our training to think about ways to do that in their own communities.
Yeah, and what you offer is so much broader than, just to be in the forest, is very different from being in a park.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right.
It's just tough because you're competing with what is, I don't know, maybe it's not a downswing now, but was just a total upswing to teaching to the test numbers on all these standardized tests, and that was the measure, right? And
Right.
so when I moved my son into the public school from the charter school, I asked how many times a day they were outside, and they're like, well, yeah, 15 minutes or something like that. And if the weather's bad, we don't, and whatever. And she said, because we have, it's all about testing.
Right.
And but if they could just get that it might actually help the testing results.
Which
if
is
they-
exactly right.
They
I mean, it
mixed
does.
it up and do experiential stuff. So you have to have people at the top that are supporting that. In
That's
the
right.
public schools.
Yes.
So for the college students that are coming now, are they teachers? Are they in the education program, or are they majors that are like
It's
ecology
mixed.
majors?
It's totally mixed. It's interesting. They're in science programs, they're in like landscape architecture programs. We had a group who actually helped me develop a business plan, who were half of the students that were in the team that worked on it were from the business school. The other were from the environmental ed programs. So it's a mixture, and which is great because what we're seeing is in practical, live time, students who are learning about the environment and it relates to, business, architect, landscape architect, and science. So it's kind of a mixed bag, which is great.
So do they get credits? Or
Yes.
is it like an elective class that they can take?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's part of the coursework that they do with their professors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any feel just to say what you were talking about, and maybe Jen has a feel too? Because you said your son was in a charter school?
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's a Unity charter school in Morristown, which is totally environmentally based. And then I know of another one that maybe was in like Burnsville, that's very environmental.
There's balance. There's that.
Yeah.
Oh, did you go? Oh.
Yeah, they've come to the school.
So do you have any feel for how many charter schools there are in the state that might have an environmental focus?
I don't, I'd have to consult.
I don't know if that's a rarity or if there's.
I'm not sure. I mean, every charter school sort of has a focus that they've, their mission. But it's a good question. I'm not sure.
But even if they don't, they might be interested in
Exactly.
educating their students.
Right.
Like, because they don't.
Correct. Yeah,
Right.
not, to kind of a non-traditional approach to
Yeah,
education, which is pretty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Kerry.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me to be here today.
Oh, actually, just a question. A member of the public wanted to just come, like what's
The best
available?
way for a member of the public to participate or learn a little bit more would be to to go on our website and sign up for one of our public programs. We're not open to the public. We function pretty much like a school would. That all of our people on campus are background checked and fingerprinted because we work with children. And so we're very careful and protective of the young people who come to our campus. So we really don't have kind of public walking around. If someone does come, we ask them to sign in at the main office, sign waivers, and then, they can be escorted around to see. And certainly if you want to come visit and bring your mom, I'd love to have them come up and we can show her around and you around.
So are most of the programs geared towards kids or
Yes.
are there any adult programs?
Oh, yes, well, the teacher training workshops are for adults, obviously. And the public programs, many are for adults. Yeah. Most are for adults, actually.
Road trip.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we do have a couple of programs coming up that you might be interested in. We have some wellness programs. There's a women's weekend that will be taking place in June. And we're going to be working on kind of the lost art of camp craft skills sometime probably in the fall. If we can get it together, teaching people how to build a fire and pitch a tent and that kind of stuff.
Do you ever do anything for preschoolers? Who's that?
Yeah, we have a group of coming, in a couple of weeks that are homeschoolers. So they're all age. So they're like from 3 to whatever they age out of homeschooling. I'm not sure they do, but yeah, so not a lot of the kindergarten nursery school age. But it's something that we think about and talk about from time to time, but we haven't really had too many asks at that level. We've trained teachers at that level that teach at that level.
Yeah, I happen to be involved with a group that has, as a youth by town, has a play group of kids that age. And I just know from my personal experience, having been to Colorado, the physical experience of being in the middle of true nature is very powerful. It's tremendous. So I suspect that it'd be a healthy thing to do for free.
We would welcome it.
Thanks. Thanks, Kerry.
All right.